All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of The Lab. Sitting with you, as always, Brandon, Alex, and Lewis. Hope you guys enjoyed our talk last week about the biohacking. But today we have a little exciting topic today. We are going to actually discuss the RPE scale training as opposed to percentage-based training. So just to kind of give a little bit of background before we kind of hash this out, the RPE, also known as the rating of perceived exertion scale, and then you have obviously percentage-based training, where you're using a certain percentage of whether or not it's your 1 rep, 2 rep, maybe 5 rep max. The point of these is kind of give you guys a little bit of a background into how you can kind of gauge the intensity of your training, maybe some pros and cons between the two as well. So for the RPE, now I've seen multiple scales used here. Sometimes it's a 0 to 10. Although if you're in physical therapy, you can also have what's known as the Borg scale. And sometimes those scales go all the way up to 20. So it just depends on who you're using, who's programming for you. For the sake of today, we'll say the scale is a 0 to 10, 0 being like no effort whatsoever, and a 10 representing like the maximum intensity possible for that effort. And then we already kind of explained the intensity of percentage-based training, where if you had a 100-pound squat and you would use 60% of that, you'd only be using 60 pounds for that lift in the designated reps. So today, well, first of all, before we even get into discussion, what do you guys use primarily for your training, and specifically for yourself, and then also for your athletes?
I personally do more of if it's in season or out of season. If it's out of season, I'll do more percentage based. If it's in season and you got a heavy game, say that day before, 2 days ago, and you're still kind of feeling it from the game, I'll kind of switch it more to like an RPE scale. There's some days where like 60% plus band tension is just feels a little bit heavier than normal. So I'm not going to just beat the body down more just because I want you to hit a certain percentage. I'd rather just go off based how you feel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So I personally use percentage based. I don't really dabble too much in the RPE, simply because I found it's a lot of mental game too. Depends on the athlete whether they can have that ability to grind, or if if they're super explosive and they hit a wall, then it's done. So the RPE gets a little weird, in my opinion. However, I do look at it the same way that Brandon does, especially in the in-season athletes. But that's more because like we have trained our eye to study the bar speed, and so like we can get pretty close to an RPE scale just based off our eye, rather than how the athlete feels. Because sometimes you can move weights really fast and it feels terrible. That's why you have like a good coach or training partners around you to decipher that for you as well, and kind of take your emotion out of it.
That's true. I think you bring up a good point about the mental aspect of it, because it can be I feel like RPE is a very subjective like measurement. Like you said, you could feel like shit, but the bar might move super fast in reality. So with the more percentage based, I guess there are going to be some days, I guess, just play devil's advocate here a little bit. Some of the cons to percentage based training might be, it is kind of a rigid structure depending on like what percentage you have set for that. So if you have to hit 80% and that's what you're hitting, but it does not look good at all, that might be one of the cons to it, where if it is set in stone, like that's what you got to hit. Obviously there might be a little bit of leeway there if you have a coach watching you, but like if you're set on hitting that percentage that day, maybe a little bit less flexible with that. But I mean, that could also be hit or miss there. And then also, I feel like if you're not doing your due diligence with like your 1 rep, 2 rep, or 5 rep maxes, like, and you don't establish a good percentage list, that also might be a con. So like, but I mean, that's why you have coaches for that, right? So you can make sure you are hitting an adequate 1 rep or whatever rep max you want to hit, because then your percentages might even be off. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, about the same. I mean, it's easier said than done. I mean, it's easier to say to hit this percentage at this weight for this many reps, but then there's just some days where that's just not gonna happen. I mean, I've tried to hit a. There's been some days where you don't get enough sleep, no hydration. Maybe the gym's a little warm, and it's like you're supposed to hit a 80% for a double or a single, and it's just like it's just not there. So it's just kind of that's why I teeter a little bit more, kind of both. I mean, if I'll be a little bit more flush with. I try not to try to go within 3 to 5%. So I'm supposed to hit 80, and 80 is just not moving or it's not happening. I might try to not go less than like a 75.
Okay.
Yeah, stay within the realm. But I think that's where a lot of experience comes from too, to be able to
Mhm.
understand the times that you need to back off and the times that you need to hit the gas. Because at the end of the day, like you're never going to be peaked 100% of the time. Like you're not going to be peaked year round. Like that the rules of three. Third of the time it's going to feel great. Like nothing's going to be able to stop you. Another third of the time it's going to feel like it feels all right, but I can do this. And then a third of the time it's going to feel like crap. Like you're just not going to be doing well at all.
Mhm.
So you got to kind of like roll with the ups and the downs. And I think that's something that like we both bring to the table as far as that goes. Cause like we've been there, we've experienced it, we've seen it through hundreds of kids at this point. So
Mhm.
it's more of like an auto regulation where we can like really pull back on kids, or we can be like, oh, hey, like now it's time to press a little bit. We got to get you back up to this because we're going into a postseason. And that's when scholarships are earned, or postseason.
Mhm. Okay. Have you guys ever used like a mixture of like an RPE and the percentage-based training? Or like, let's say they're supposed to hit like 80% and it's moving like absolute dog shit. They feel like shit. You guys like maybe go down 2.5% or maybe 5% even? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The juice isn't worth the squeeze at that point, because now you're getting, I mean, you're getting them into a compromised position because they're losing their form, they're having muscle breakdowns, so now we're running the risk of injury that's going up. It's just not worth it.
Still always having some coaches that are always like hard asses where, well, what happens if it's a game? You need to be able to hit this max level on game day. So what's the difference between training and game day? It's like, well, it's training. It's not a game. There's no point in beating the body down when you
Mhm.
need it ready for the actual game. So I think some people take percentage based too far sometimes.
Yeah.
An aspect of that, but
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, just like another quote or whatever is, no one has earned a scholarship based on practices. Like you get it done in the games. Like you got to be able to be game ready. It's hard to play in a game when you're injured because you were fucking around in practice or your coach was an idiot and just beat you into the dirt.
That's very true. So with like, let's say because you guys use a lot of like the 3 week waves and things of that nature. Let's say if someone goes through a 3 week wave, they come out on top, but then the next 3 weeks just maybe something's not hitting on all cylinders. Maybe they take a step back. How do you go about adjusting those percentages then based off their performance within the first 3 weeks being stellar, the next 3 weeks sucking? What do you do on the next 3 weeks?
We'll just take a deload.
Big
So it's
deload.
just, yeah, like an auto-regulated deload. So like no barbell is going to be on their spine. They're not going to be deadlifting. They're not going to be probably even a barbell in their hands. They'll do a lot of like the like unilateral movements and stuff like that, and just kind of give them like a reset. And a lot of the times, like they just get in their head because they're like, they want to hit this number to like keep us happy, if you will.
Mhm.
But in reality, like our happiness comes from their success. So it's like we're totally fine with like making a turn and getting you back on course. So that's how I personally do it.
yeah, everything's always subject to change,
Hmm.
not set in stone.
Being a little bit more flexible with the training.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's what sets it apart too. Is like is how we do that because it's on the fly. I think it shows like our expertise in the area that is strength and conditioning too.
Mhm.
So that's a plus because like anybody can put exercises and reps and sets with percentages up on a board, and say, go do that.
Mm-hmm.
But like your expertise really comes into play when they're struggling to do that and they have to make an audible and it's got to be on the fly. And then you got to do it with another kid that's 6, 7, 8 years younger, on a totally different skill level too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I think one thing I've kind of seen as like I've kind of gotten more from like you have the kids going away to college and then coming back from college. And it's like, what they were doing beforehand before they left you. And then it's like they go off to school and some coaches don't necessarily always hit the right percentages or, it's just maybe not to the same degree of intensity like they've been doing with you guys and it shows because then they come back and it's like you have to almost kind of like recycle through what they were doing beforehand. So it's like kind of reconfiguring percentages again. But then like when they are dealing with like an injury, kind of taking like a mixture of like what they're doing percentage wise and kind of I'm going to use a Brandon word, teetering in some different things to kind of make sure that they can kind of control the volume of their training too. Man, that word's been said so many times on here over the last 2 or 3 episodes. As I go through and I listen and I edit and I just hear, I'm going to teeter in this, teeter in that. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to start saying this now. Great. Just hear that popping up. Brandon, so thank you. Thank you for that.
Welcome. You gotta expand that vocabulary.
But I think that's important with like dealing with injuries and like you already brought up Prado, like kind of like not having kids get into overtraining. Like just kind of being, like you were saying, being smart with their percentages and just kind of keeping an eye on them. So, I mean, there's training alone and then there's training smart. And I think that's something that more kids should be doing is getting eyes on them. Maybe not their football coach or their track coach, but an actual strength and conditioning coach who's been trained to do this and actually understands the programming. So that's my 10 cents on that. Are there any other types?
Well, Brandon, for example, like you were talking about like the college kids coming back and, dealing with injuries or they're less prepared than they were like when they first left. He's got a great, like, I mean, hate to name drop him, but Xavier, every single time that dude comes around, he's kind of in pieces and Brandon puts it back together. And then, you're working on him like on the physical therapy side of things. So then it's like, here we go again. Like, let's see how long he can hold on. But hey, this to his credit, this one's been the longest so far. So knock on wood.
Oh, their schedule is, I don't know. We were just talking about this week because they had testing this week. So they follow the testing protocol like in line. So they do like their 30-meter max sprint test.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll do their strength test where they do their max squat or max bench, max power, I think is what it is. And then like that's pretty strenuous test. And they'll come back the next day and then they'll hit like almost like a longer distance anaerobic test. They do like their 600-yard test, which is, these guys are going to compete, so they're still going to go balls out. I mean, you're still pretty much hitting the max speed, and then that's why early in their testing phases they got all these hamstring injuries and stuff like that. They've been in school a week or a month. They just started practices, like official practices, a week or 2 ago, and then you have no idea what these kids have been doing all summer. And then all of a sudden you're going to send them into these 2 back-to-back max effort days and then want to know why shit goes downhill early.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give the college coaches a little bit of leeway here, though, I mean, they don't really know what the kids have been doing in the off season, and then they have to kind of, I almost want to say, program to the lowest performer to a degree sometimes. But at the same time, sometimes it's not necessarily great when they kind of throw a ton at them, like you were just saying. That is a lot. That's actually more than I thought that they were going to do. So it makes sense.
But I mean, like it's such a stupid quote. To quote one of the greats, like we've reached out to college coaches before. Like we're not hard to find. Like you can have phone conversations with us about our athletes, like about your athletes now. Like they're in your hands, but they come back. Like it should be seamless at that point, I mean, that's how I feel. Like when kids go off to college and stuff, like I do worry. Like I worry about them. You know, like I think we've set such a standard, or at least I like to think that we set such a standard, but it
Mhm.
just sucks when they come back and they're drastically weaker and underperformed and out of shape. I mean, it's just it hurts.
I had that I had the thought in my head the other day because I don't remember who I was thinking about. One of our former volleyball players, Brandon. I won't mention a name, but in my mind, I'm thinking, what would happen if you guys reached out to some like D2, D3 schools, and you guys could like, they have their athletic coaches, right? But like handing off the strength and conditioning side to you guys, like actually get like a strength, even though they might not have like the funds to like physically have you there, but that I almost feel like that's like you're not doing your due diligence to the athletes who come to play there as a D2 and D3 school, where like you should be trying to at least get something efficient going for them to progress as athletes besides just kind of throwing darts at the wall and seeing what sticks, or what you did when you were an athlete and now you're the coach. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's my rant. I think that would be a wonderful thing to kind of get your hands in there and kind of give them a program for them to actually follow through with. And then when they come back, they could actually just train with you guys at No Name Athletics. Kind of streamline progression. And at the same time, you'll have more control of their percentage work, more control over their recoveries, and actually kind of get like an input from the kids. Just, I don't know. That's my thought.
Too much power trip from most of these coaches nowadays.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, and that's me even like taking a shot at myself. I'll speak for myself. But I mean, if there was like another coach that came in and was like, "Oh, hey, I'm seeing this, and that with all of your athletes, and they're all sucking at this. Like, let me come into your facility and like correct all of this." I'm gonna be like, "Nah, bro, you're good. Like, you can feel free to come in and we can talk about it." And because like I'm open to taking like different opinions and seeing different
Mhm.
sides of things. Because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's not about me, it's about the kids. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I trust my eyes, and then I trust Brandon's eyes when we're in there. So it's I'm not trusting very many other people's.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just to kind of bring up another topic with the RPE, just because we're talking about RPE and percentage-based training, would be the amount of training that these college, athletic coaches do get on the side of strength and conditioning. I personally don't believe they get a tremendous amount of training, let alone unless it was like their specific background while they were an athlete. That's the only way I could imagine they got that. Um, but do you guys have any insight on like what kind of background, like, well, how are they going about, like with some of the schools like Wilmington College, Edison Community College, schools like that, where they have athletics, but they don't necessarily have a strength and conditioning coach on site?
I think most of it's all just coach related, or
Mhm.
um, they have their free time of here's the weight room, go do what you need to do or whatever type thing. But there's not really a designated person to run it besides the coach.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean that makes it hard on the coach too, because that's not necessarily like their expertise. Like I'm not gonna go and get thrown
Mhm.
into a baseball game or a basketball game and expect to like coach it at a college level. I'm not going to be successful, and I'm aware of that.
Mhm.
So it could be the same thing, only in terms of like them getting thrown into a weight room and at a college level. Because I think a lot of these smaller colleges too, in my opinion, what the goal should be is to get the kids out. Like I don't want to see you next year, and that was one of the things that I told like my Edison boys that I had was like my goal is to not train you next year. I don't want to see you. I want to see you at a bigger program.
Mhm. Speaking of Edison boys, you guys talked to Garrett?
Mhm.
How's he doing?
He's doing well. Yeah. Up in Michigan. Him and his significant other are living together now. So getting all that figured out, which I'm super happy for him, and then he's got a good opportunity where he's at. So I'm pretty excited. So out of all four of the boys have now gone on to like a D1 college. So
That's awesome.
I'm very happy for them all.
Little humble brag there. All 4.
4 for 4.
Many more to come.
He just DM me.
No way.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
he's got my house bugged apparently.
His ears were burning.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Damn. But anything else you guys want to add in on the RPE or the percentage-based training?
I'm good.
Nothing else you want to teeter in there?
Not yet.
Yeah. I would recommend to young lifters, do both. Try it.
Mhm.
You're gonna learn the best by doing it.
Yeah.
If you need help, come on in. We're more than happy to help you. Like, we'll walk you all the way through all the steps of it.
Actually, I just had a random thought. So for people who are maybe like struggling with maintaining like their work-life balance, I definitely think having like a mixture of the percentage-based training and the RPE could be a wonderful thing for you, because I know there are going to be days where work is going to have you in a vice. Like, for example, this week, I was supposed to hit like 80 and 90% on snatches. That wasn't going to happen today after today. But that's just because, I mean, I've probably averaged maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep over the last 7 to 8 days, just not sleeping well.
That's a lot of sleep.
I was gonna say, I shouldn't be complaining, Brandon, with you right there.
That's
I was gonna say,
I say sleep.
like 48 hours right there.
Brandon's just like, I need it. Oh man, no, but I definitely think like for, you know, maybe this is just a little bit of a shout out to like newer workers, or, you know, people who are getting out of grad school and starting their jobs, and like, or maybe even you're a med student and you're going through your rotations like residency and fellowship, and you don't maybe have as much time to train because maybe you are working, you know, the night shift now. Getting kind of a handle on what your body feels like with those, you know, changes in life, and then maybe starting to get back into percentage-based training might not be a bad idea, just because then you can kind of get an idea of how your nervous system's kind of playing. Maybe you're not eating healthy like you used to. Maybe you have a newborn.
That'll do it.
Yeah. Maybe you're
But,
stressed.
Yeah.
You're just stressed all day.
Yes. Yes.
That was one of our athletes that we just hired on. Shout out Coach Meg. But she that was like one of her first. You remember when she came in, like first week, maybe second week of like her full-time job, dragging. She was like, guys, this is a new level of tired. Just hurting.
That kind of tired you can't sleep off, Meg.
Welcome to the
welcome
workforce.
For the rest of your life, Meg.
You only got 70 more years.
Yep.
Game on, man. No, that's good to hear, though. I mean, putting in the time.
Yeah.
Do it while you're young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like you old man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I ain't 30 yet, so.
It
Hey,
gets
Trotter,
worse.
are you 32 yet? No.
Next week.
Next week. Oh.
October 4th. Then I'm 8 years from 40. 8 years. This hurts
Thanks,
so
bud.
bad.
Thank you.
Oh, that hurts.
Been 32 since August.
Yeah. God.
Now closer to 40 than I am 21.
Yeah.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Yeah.
No.
Had one to train a guy tonight. Thought he was much older than what he was. Said he graduated in 18. That hurt. Hurt a lot.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Like I only got about 8 years on you.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet Jesus. Oh man, that's scary. No, but all right, guys. I love that talk today about RPE and percentage-based training. But guys, before we kind of close out today's episode, if you guys could please hit the notification bell on the YouTube page. If you guys are following along, be sure to follow the Instagram pages, both, you know, the lab, the Garage Gym PT, and then of course Alex Trotter, Brandon Wierig, and I'm Lou Folenkamp on there on Instagram. But if you guys ever have any questions, please feel free to, you know, shoot us a DM, let us know. But we will see you guys in the next episode.
And go Bucks.
I was waiting
Let's
for
go.
it. I knew he was going to do that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Before we close the episode now,
There is
how
no
do you
closing.
not put?
Just like Notre Dame, they didn't close.
Hey,
Thank
you
you.
got to
Yes.
put
Yes. Thank you. I'm actually siding with you on this because we didn't close and it shouldn't have been a different game. Because how do you finish the game 2 times, 2 plays with 10 men on the field? Like just.
They knew it didn't matter.
the Notre Dame coaching staff.
Yeah. Solid
Idiots.
choice.
All right. Yep. All right, guys. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Ohio.